was about 25 or 30 feet long and about 2 feet around.
There's no question about it. The full moon is my worst enemy. It's horrible.
To me, it represents the rising of the consciousness.
From the boundaries of the universe to the depth of your soul, embark on a journey through the unknown and unexplained as we explore mysteries, magic, and miracles. Hello and welcome. This is Patrick McNee. Beware of the full moon. We're about to take a closer look at werewolves. And we'll explore beyond our fear of the history of snakes. But now, let's look at the evidence that claims sea monsters may exist today. Since the beginning of time, man has talked of great monsters. Even in modern times, there have been many reports of sea monsters in various lakes and oceans around the world. Today, man seems more interested than ever in giant creatures of the deep. Of course, Scotland's Loch Ness Monster was the most famous. But in North America, we have our own serpents of the deep. Take the Gloucester, Massachusetts monster, for instance. In 1817, 28 persons, including sea captains, military officers, businessmen, and clergymen, signed sworn statements that they'd seen it. But let's focus on two creatures that have actually been captured on film and videotape. Chesapeake Bay has long been known for its fishing and crabbing. But about 20 years ago, people began seeing some strange sea life in the Chesapeake Bay. This sparked the interest of the Enigma Project, a scientific group formed in 1978 to investigate claims of unexplained phenomena.
Chessie first came to my attention back in the late 1970s when I was working in industry. Articles began to appear in local papers about people seeing large snake-like animals they were calling Nessie Jr. at the time. But that really kind of kicked the whole subject off. And it really didn't blossom until 1982 when Robert and Karen Frew shot the videotape here on Kent Island. There was a great deal of media interest, and there was also some scientific interest. The videotape came to the attention of the Johns Hopkins Applied Physics Laboratory, where they offered to perform some computer image enhancement on it. At that point, the Frew videotape was taken to the Smithsonian and actually given an audience by scientists down there in hopes that they could come up with some type of origin or pronouncement on what it was. They didn't. They were only able to establish that the videotape depicted an animate object.
The Enigma Project received reports of over 100 sightings of Chessie over the years, but of all those, the most extraordinary came when Carol Taylor and her father got the closest look ever at the serpent, when they stood only 35 feet from it.
On July 16th, 1982, my father and I were out to dinner, and we came down here just to see the beach area. It was a nice summer evening. We certainly didn't expect to see anything on the water, except a few boats, maybe. And I saw what appeared to be a dog nose sticking up in a wake, like a dog was swimming in the water. But it didn't really look like a dog. Got down off the jetty and I ran down the beach. It appeared to have a head that was about the size of a rugby ball, and I could see 5 or 6 humps that were all sticking up about this far, and it was swimming in an up and down fashion. It appeared to me to be about the size of a telephone pole around, and to be like a big long snake, maybe 30 feet long. I didn't know what it was, but I was more curious than anything else, so it never occurred to me to be frightened of it.
1,000 miles away, a similar creature has been sighted over the years. Lake Superior is a vast body, covering some 32,000 square miles, with depths over 1,200 feet. Its waters are known to be unpredictable and mysterious. Franklin Cavell was head keeper at the lighthouse at Split Rock on the North Shore. On June the 2nd, 1931, he observed a large snake-like creature 40 feet long and as big around as a big pine, swimming in front of the lighthouse for about a half an hour. Over the years, others claimed to have seen a similar creature at various locations in the big lake. Then in 1961, a crew member on the William A. Irvin named Robert Satala actually took photographs of a similar animal off the port bow 10 miles from Duluth. And in 1995, the Lake Superior monster surfaced again, seen by a high school lad near Thunder Bay, Ontario. And he was able to capture it on home video.
Well, it was about the second week of May, and I just put my boat in for the season. I wasn't very far offshore, but the water was pretty deep out there. I stopped to let it idle so I could take the cover off and adjust the carburetor. Then I saw something out in the water. At first I thought it was a fish, but then I saw it was really big. Then I remembered I had my camera on the seat, so I grabbed it and got a pretty good shot. It was about 25 or 30 feet long and about 2 feet around, like a big snake, but it didn't slither from side to side like a snake. It was more up and down. I've never seen anything quite like this. Well, I do know it wasn't a fish or an eel, but it was definitely alive. It was huge, at least 25 feet long.
Two sea monsters. Could they be related? One thing for sure, next time you go for a walk on the shore, don't forget your camera. Letters are poured in after our story on the mysterious healing practice of Qigong. Master Wang, a teacher and healer of the ancient Chinese art, has healed people with ailments from headaches and weight problems to cancer. Since our interview with him, his incredible powers have continued. 20 people diagnosed with cancer have miraculously improved. Over 200 people with severe weight problems have lost up to 50 pounds a month. What do the doctors think? They just keep scratching their heads. Howling at a full moon, a fanged creature, part human, part animal. Folklore says I have just described a werewolf. But how did this legend begin? And is there any validity to it?
Even a man who is pure at heart and says his prayers by night will turn into a wolf when the wolfbane blooms and the autumn moon is full and bright. Those words were spoken by the gypsy woman Mileva, played by legendary Russian actress Maria Uspenskaya in the 1941 Universal release of The Wolfman. It's filmed right here, as a matter of fact. It also featured another young star by the name of Lon Chaney Jr., who played a part of The Wolfman. But that's the movies, right? I mean, werewolves don't exist in real life. Not in present day, do they?
We know werewolves in mythology and modern horror stories. This is where we expect them to stay, in our fantasies. But through centuries, mutilated bodies of innocent victims have created legends of werewolf attacks. There has even been reports of sightings of these beasts. Dating back centuries, the most common belief was that werewolves were a creation of the devil, or may even be a witch's revenge. All the legends had one thing in common. Werewolves were never detected during the day. It was at night when these creatures lurked from the shadows. Stimulated by the full moon and forced by an inexplicable desire, the man-wolf set out to get his victim for no other reason but for the urge to kill. Could some men somehow transform themselves into demonic, hairy monsters which prowl when the moon is full?
Even if there were a remote chance of that happening, it would be too bizarre to be believable. Or would it? In fact, doctors have a medical term for this werewolf-type syndrome: lycanthropy.
They say that in every one of us lies secret, savage desires, safely stored away. Most of us keep those desires under tap, but then there are those who are overwhelmed by ancient memories of when humans were hunters and killers. Thus is born a man-wolf. Although lycanthropy can be triggered by several mental conditions, the fact remains that it exists. Dr. Gerard Fieldman, a psychiatrist, treats people who suffer from lycanthropy. He told us the reason why it is not a widely publicized issue is fear of prosecution, because his patients have killed.
Lycanthropy has never been used in court as the grounds for committing murder. With all the skeptics out there, it would be impossible to prove.
Dr. Fieldman told us the killings were almost never traced back to his patients because the victims are total strangers.
People with lycanthropy suffer from a physical and hormonal imbalance which affects both brain and body. Dr. Fieldman says his patients are normal people in everyday life. We met one of his patients. If we expected someone with fangs and yellow eyes, well, we were disappointed.
When I look at other people, they look normal, I guess, like I do, and sometimes I just wonder, do they feel the same way I do? Do they have the same kind of urges I do?
When excessive amounts of hormones are discharged in the body, it could have a major effect on someone, mentally and physically.
With some patients, there's an incredible transformation. Facial hair develops, there's an increase in physical strength, there's a craving for human blood. And then they develop a delusion of being a wolf.
Certain times of the month, these symptoms reach full-blown status.
There's no question about it. The full moon is my worst enemy.
The dangerous part is that lycanthropy causes an irresistible impulse to hunt and destroy.
If I killed people? Can you ask me something else?
Believe me, these people kill. It's out of their control. It's not someone just having a bad day.
It's horrible. I mean, people just don't understand, the living hell that it is. I mean, this isn't Hollywood. It's not like in the movie Wolf, where Jack Nicholson gets the girl and everything works out. I mean, it's a living hell. It's lonely and it's horrible.
Although our interviews merely show the possibility of so-called werewolves in modern society, no proof exists of killings in the last century by these people. But as they say, no one is prepared to rush forward and admit to senseless bloodshed.
So next time when the moon is full and you feel a twinge in your stomach and your hands begin to shake, you may become a werewolf. Or you may have indigestion. In either case, you'll feel better in the morning.
The name Ramu was given to the 10-year-old boy who was captured in a forest living among the wolves. The wolf boy was on all fours, his hair matted, his nails like claws, and his palms, elbows, and knees were calloused like the pads of a wolf's paw. He ate raw meat, and even after his capture would still sneak out and attack chickens, disembowel them with his teeth, and eat them, entrails and all. He died in 1985. During his short span in civilization, he learned to wash and wear clothes, but never to speak. When you see a snake, what do you feel? Fear? In America, maybe, but throughout the world, snakes have played a powerful and revered role in many rituals and ancient traditions.
Many of us can relate to Indiana Jones's phobia of snakes. For a long time, controversy has surrounded the snake. Religious authorities have debated whether the snake symbolizes the higher or lower kingdoms.
Archaeologists have uncovered evidence of goddess-centered civilizations in many areas, dating from 5,000 to 30,000 years ago. The artifacts are goddesses and high priestesses that were part of a peaceful world. In countries such as India and Mexico, goddess worship was destroyed by domineering male gods who killed the goddess and scattered her fragments all over the world. Now, groups like Echoes of the Goddess are putting the pieces of the goddess religion back together. As a gypsy dancer, Regina has breathed life into a tradition long forgotten.
It represents the rising of the consciousness, like the Kundalini power that is coiled on the bottom of your spine, and then your consciousness rises, and that's what I like to represent with the snake dance.
In her dance, the wise woman brings the snake, the symbol of knowledge, to be shared by all. Her learning from the snake progresses as the rising of the Kundalini power through the chakras, igniting creativity and awareness along the way. Once she has learned all there is to know and is ready to share her knowledge with the world, the wise woman comes and retrieves the snake. The snake dance has held particular importance in more than one culture. The Hopi Indians treat the snake dance as a religious ceremony for transformation and healing. With poisonous rattlers in their mouths, they dance and pray for rain to quench their parched crops. Then before the sun sets, they release the snakes into the desert to take their prayers to the gods of the underworld. The Hopis believe they emerged from Mother Earth, so these gods are in heaven. In Vudu, a combination of the African Udon religion and Catholicism, the snake dance is done after rituals to balance the energies. The snake represents their god, Damballa, and is the most powerful and sacred symbol of worship.
While the snake is represented in just about every culture, its meaning is different in nearly every one.
For Christian religions, the serpent is an evil creature, one which tempted Eve with the fruit of the tree of knowledge and caused the original sin. But the snake has long represented death and rebirth, like the shedding of the snake's skin, a cycle through which the soul is transformed. For the Aztecs, the snake embodied the earthbound nature of man and stood for their highest god, Quetzalcoatl. He was a dying hero, pictured as a feathered flying serpent, who they believed would someday return. In Hinduism, gods are represented with serpents, one with snakes coiled around his wrist and neck, and another who sleeps on a serpent bed. The snake has a powerful energy people respect. In fact, to this day, the Cobra Festival is practiced without a single person bitten. In Burma, the cobra is so revered, this priestess drew a king cobra from underneath a rock. She kissed it 3 times on the head so it would bring rain for the next harvest. Ancient Egyptian imagery shows the snake as the highest godlike force. Egyptian pharaohs always wore a headband with a snake that stood for both inner vision and control of the universe. While some saw it as kind of an eye of Horus, others believed it to be the sacred eye of Ra.
The symbol of the American Medical Association, a staff with an intertwined snake, can be traced to ancient times, to the Greek god Asclepios. Similar to today, it means wisdom through healing. But it should not be confused with the caduceus, 2 intertwined snakes on a staff, held by the Greek god Hermes.
Whatever tradition you follow, the symbol of the snake has an important significance. The snake's shedding of the skin is like death and rebirth, discarding the past in order to continue to live, something we should all strive for.
It may take a while to get completely comfortable with the snake, but the more we learn about it, the more we take the mystery out of the myth.
I love stories with happy endings. This is Patrick McNee. Join me next time for more mysteries, magic, and miracles.